So I'm out on my daughter's farm, and I'm working on my son-in-law's Mercedes. I showed you the video, I think it was a week or two ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I mean. And it has the air shocks that bled down, and the air shocks were leaking. This vehicle right here. So I have new struts, air shocks, whatever you want to call them. I have new ones. I have a new control arm for the other side, and we're going to be putting those in today. And I'm going to be putting a new hood strut in today because this one's dead, hence the 2x4 right there. So that's going to be my little project for today. I'm going to wind up doing one side strut first on my own before filming. This way I have everything ready and set, and I know the tricks and ins and outs. So, but I'm going to do the hood strut first. So why don't we go ahead and do that right now. So in order to get the hood prop off, there's these little clips you got to disengage. Right here, you stick a small screwdriver in the edge and you pry it out, and this clip comes out. There's one there, there's one down there. And then this thing pops off a ball stud. So let me get that off. And like I said, I'm doing this, I can't do this one-handed, so I got to put the camera down for a minute. So with that pried up, it just pops right out. And you can see that clip just encloses around that ball, around the backside of it. Oops, focus, right there. And it holds it in place. So let's do the bottom, and then we'll get this switched over. So there's a good visual of the clip itself. I mean, in all seriousness, this takes less than 60 seconds, and you'll have it changed over. So once I get the new one in place, actually I can show you this relatively simple. All you got to do to get it on is just put it over and click, it snaps in place. And just like that, see that? And actually I got that piece of wood there, so I'm going to have to move that. Hold on, because I got to get that aligned. Hopefully I could do this one-handed. Let's see. I want to focus. All right, hang on. All right, so I lowered the piece of wood, and there it goes. It's in place. That's it. That's all you got to do. And there you go. You change your hood props. Same type of prop design is used on lift gates, the lift gate glass, stuff like that. You know, hoods, you name it. So it's not a difficult thing to change. It's actually pretty simple. Anybody can do it. If you can use a butter knife, you can change these. It's not that difficult. The only thing you got to worry about is the weight of the piece. You know, be it the hatch, the glass, whatever. You got to worry about the weight. And if you have two, do one side at a time. All right, so let's move on to figuring out how we're going to do these struts. So first things first, I got to take this strip up and out like that. And then I have this air line here that runs down to the strut down inside there. And I'm not quite sure if it'll come off easily without taking this strut tower brace off. So it appears that I'm going to have to take this 10 out here to get that strut tower brace, well, to get the mounts out and stuff to get the strut tower brace off. So let's do that. Now I got the screws out for that. It won't come up and out completely, but I did realize too, this has to come out. This just uses like clips like an air cleaner box would use. So that allows that to come up and out. I'm almost wondering if this is supposed to have a cabin air filter. Oh, there, I can actually see the top of the cabin air filter in there. But that's actually accessed through inside the car. Okay, but this is done just to allow you to, I guess, gain access to this stuff here and the backside of these bolts. All right, so let me continue. I got the 4 bolts out. Basically, it's just bolts that run through. They're pinch bolts. That's all. No big deal. So I got those out, and now this should lift up and out somehow. I got to see, I might need to get a pry bar in there or something, because it's probably wedged in between here. So let me get that out. That's really all it was, just pry it up and out. And it looks like it comes out from this side. And there we go. So, not bad. Up and out. And now, we can actually look at the top of the strut. And it's actually, see that it is actually screwed in place. So let's see. See that? Actually, it's held in with like a nut on there. So it's probably got like a compression style type fitting at the end of this. I got to look at the new strut and see exactly how that thing's held in place. Now, one thing I didn't think about bringing with me is crow's feet, because I could get a crow's foot down on there. I can unbolt this upper mount here and take it out of the way. Unfortunately, I can't take it out of the car because the hose goes through the center of it, so I'd have to unhook it and loop it this way. So I think let me do that and see how that works out. That just lays out of the way like that. So now, get a 10 on there, and there you go. It came loose pretty easy, actually. I mean, it was snug, but, you know, snug enough, I think. So that should unscrew. I'd be willing to bet there's some kind of a compression fitting, like a nylon compression fitting. And let's see. I'm not quite sure what that is. I think that's what that is. Let me make heads or tails of it. All right. Oh, okay, that's out. So I moved that collar back, and you can actually see it's got an O-ring on it, and it uses like a compression sleeve, split sleeve, just to hold the line in place, because there's probably another O-ring on the inside of the strut there, down inside, that holds it in place. So now we get to go down here and see about disconnecting the sway bar end link. And as you know from previous videos, I usually slice that off, but I really don't have a way of doing that here. I don't have any air tools. This is all done by hand, so I really don't have a way of doing that. I mean, I could hacksaw it off, but it's clean enough. Let me try spraying it up with something and see if I can't zap it off with a gun. That nut came right off, believe it or not, which kind of amazed me. I didn't think it would. But the problem is that's a tapered fit. I didn't realize that, like a tie rod would be. It's not a straight up fit. So now I didn't bring any tools for that really, so I'm gonna have to try to hammer it and make it come out. If not, I'm gonna have to somehow figure something out. And let's see, the lower bolt in the clevis there, that happened to be a 24 millimeter, and I was able to get that off. So now it's a matter of separating this, getting this out. This bolt is already on its way out, and then that whole assembly should come right out. So I really wasn't anticipating this being that design. I don't know why, I just didn't think about it. So I've been trying to hit the top of it, as you could see, because what'll happen is on a tapered fit, if you hit it hard enough, it'll actually distort the opening. It'll actually distort it like that slightly, and it'll usually make it pop. Now here's the other problem. I only have these 3 hammers, and they're not super big hammers. So it looks like I'm going to be beating the heck out of this thing for a bit to try to get it to release. Hopefully I can do that. Let's keep going. All right, so I was beating the snot out of that thing for quite a while, as you can see by the witness marks up there. I'm actually out of breath from beating on it so much. But like I said, I only got small hammers, so it's a little bit of a pain. So I actually had this thing that I had made a while back. It's a 1/4 inch long extension that I used inside a drill. Amazingly enough, I fitted it inside there, and I got it to start moving by beating the snot out of this end. As you can see, I started to mushroom the end out. I also flattened the end out there. It's all right, I don't care about ruining it. As long as I'm getting that out. And I got that separated. I got the clevis bolt out. Now the only thing is, I think I got to separate that upper control arm to tip this thing out enough so I have enough room to maneuver. So let me see what I could do here. And there it is out. I actually wasn't expecting to do it that quickly. You know, once I dropped this, I actually separated the tie rod so I could get a little more room. And I actually slid the axle, the front drive axle, out of the front diff a little bit just to make a little more room. What I did was I held this over like this. It's actually tied off to the hood latch on the body. But I did that just to keep it from rotating back, because in the forward position is what helped me. Now on the other side, I have to change the upper control arm. So that's actually going to be an assist to me, because it'll give me a little more working room. I didn't want to do this side. I didn't want to take it out because it's a little bit of a pain. But since I got to take the other side out anyway, you know, it's not a big deal. So what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to probably have my wife film me tomorrow when I do the other side, when I go to take that one out, and then when I do the installation also. So for right now, my wife is actually watching our grandkids for a while my daughter and her husband run out to the store. So I'm going to have to film this on my own. I was hoping to have her help me a little bit, but it's just not working out that way at the moment. So what I'm going to do is the same as the other side. I'm going to separate that upper ball joint here because I'm going to take the upper control arm out. I'm going to take that tie rod off. I'm going to take that lower clevis pin out. Let's see, I got to undo the brake hose and the ABS wiring that runs right there. And then I got to take that sway bar end link off. Now on the other side, I said that it's a tapered fit. It's actually not, I realized. That's kind of like a perfect fit going through the strut there. The threaded part of the sway bar end link fits like absolutely perfect through the hole. So it's a matter of driving it out. And I think I just had some tension on the sway bar. That's what was giving me a little bit of grief yesterday. So it shouldn't be too big of a deal getting that out. So I'm going to start with the upper control arm. And then the other thing too is where the upper control arm bolts to the body, you can see the bolt there. See that there's one on each side. The problem is, you come underneath the hood. Let me get up here. There's actually a nut. Let's see if we can get on that. Right there. There's one there. And then there's one back there. And all that mess. And the only way for me to get to that is by reaching my hand down through here. And then I can't even see it. I can only feel it. So that's going to be a little bit of a trick. But I think the easiest way to start this is I'm going to separate that upper ball joint, and I'm just going to take that upper control arm right out of the way. With the nut removed from the tie rod, what you do is you hit the side of this with a hammer, like such. I don't have a big ball peen hammer. I just wasn't thinking when I brought my tools up here. And he's a carpenter, hence we have these kind of hammers. I do have a smaller dead blow ball peen, but it's not big enough. So anyway, you're going to wind up hitting it like this. Same with the upper control arm, but you got to be careful. A lot of vehicles will use like aluminum spindles or aluminum not tie rods, but aluminum knuckles here. So you just got to be careful so you don't damage the daylights out of those things. Have yourself a good dead blow hammer when you do stuff like this. And then, like I said, I got the nut off of there, and I just have to drive that thing straight back to release it. So that really shouldn't be a big deal. So I'm going to go ahead, and like I said, I'm going to start hitting this on the side. You can actually see, if you look close, right there, you can actually see those are witness marks from somebody else doing this at some point in this car's life. Those are hammer marks right there. So somebody has done this before to release this, because what happens is it's a tapered fit. So you're hitting it on the side. The hole actually gets distorted slightly. So what'll happen is you'll hit it and it'll squeeze together like that just slightly, and it'll actually push the tie rod out. So that's what I'm going to do right now. And there you go. I finally got that one to release, and as you can see, let's see, you have witness marks there. Now, the biggest hammer I had, unfortunately, is this style. I'm not a carpenter. I don't do work around the house with wood or nails or anything like that. It's just not my thing. That I leave up to a professional. So I'm not even sure the reason for a hammer like this. I really have no clue. So, but that's what I had to use. Is the heaviest hammer I have available to me right now. So it's okay. It's just cast iron. It's not going to really affect anything. So, but there you can see the taper on the tie rod end. So now we just push that through like that, and now that could be held out of the way. What I'm going to do is I have the wheels cut all the way to the left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the wheels all the way to the right. So this is inside and it's out of my way. If you look close, you can kind of see that that's at a slight angle. So trying to push that through doesn't really work because the threads that are on top there catch the edge of that. Like I said, it's a pretty good fit. So I have a jack underneath there because I'm going to try to level that out. Pay attention to it as I jack up on it. Oh, there it goes. See how it just leveled out? So now that it leveled out, it actually pushes right out. So that was my mistake on the other side. I sat there and beat the snot out of that thing for a while before I realized what it was. And there you can see the threads go all the way down on that thing. So, all right, yes, and I mean, it comes off pretty simply. You know, you just put a jack underneath there just to try to level it out. All right, if you actually had the other side on the ground, let me see. If you had the other side on the ground, it would actually tension it upward. So you want to have both wheels hanging when you do this and make your life much easier. We have the upper control arm out, and you can see the brand new one right next to it. That one you can see the ball joint is just shot on it, or at least the boot's all ripped up from what you can see, but it's got a lot of play in it. I got to transfer over that adjuster ball right there. That's for the leveling system. That'll go into that hole there in the control arm. And right here, this is that arm that I was telling you about. Remember in a previous video I said how flexible these are? It's like, look at that. You see that? It's like almost like a dense rubber or extremely soft plastic. It's weird. So anyway, so that's out of the way. Now I got to take that lower clevis bolt out. I'm going to take the nut off, slide the bolt out. Then the whole assembly is going to drop down. Then I can take the top bolts out and take this out. It's those top three nuts, rather. Get these top three nuts out this way. I can take the plate off, and I can take the fitting out that's inside there. And as you saw on the other side, it's just a screw down fitting with a sleeve and a collet to lock it in place. I decided to unbolt the upper brace here and just get it out of the way first, so this way I can get onto that sleeve much easier, or that collet much easier with this out of the way, because I forgot to bring crow's feet with me, so I can get on that with an open end wrench. But once I get that out, then I can put a couple of nuts back on here just to hold this up in place while I disassemble the bottom. And there we go. I got the airline off, and I put a nut back on here just to keep it from falling back through. And as you can see, this one actually has a lot of rust and stuff inside there, so moisture was gotten into that. That might have been what ruined the strut itself, and I believe the strut leaking fluid is what ruined the bellow or the air spring, whatever you want to call it. Because as you saw in that previous video, the bellow is actually soft in a couple of spots. There it is. There's the strut out. I mean, it's really not a big deal. Once I took the lower clevis out, I basically just dropped it down, because I took the nuts off on top, obviously. I dropped it down and then was able to pull it out the top here, basically, tip the top towards me, and then pulled it up straight up and out. I mean, it's very uneventful. As long as you have the sway bar stuff disconnected, the tie rod disconnected, the entire assembly has enough room to push down and give you absolutely enough clearance to come out. So, all right, that's it. I got the new ones here. It's actually so hot and sunny that we put this tent up around me, because otherwise I'm just burning up in the sun. And here we go. Here's a new one, just in the box. I did get these through Amazon. They do have like cheap versions. I didn't want to go for a cheap version. I went for a middle of the road version, and it had very good reviews. So this is what we're going to be using here. So let me get this in place. Here's the new strut assembly getting ready to go in. And we're going to have Nana Meg. She's going to do a little filming because she's free now. So she's going to just show me installing it in here and getting it set up. So let me pass it over to Aunt Meg, Nana Meg, and we'll go from there. You can see her reflection right there. She doesn't want to be in the video. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, like I said, you take this, you put the clevis over the axle, and you stuff it down in place like this. You make sure the wiring and everything's out of the way. And then the top here, it gets a little tricky. You have to get it down and in place. Pause that. All right, so from here, you actually have to push down on the top of this, which is going to take a little effort to get it in place. And I actually have to get a little pry bar in there, because it's got to go past, I don't know if you can see up here, it's got to go past these studs to get to the other side here, and it's just very, very tight at this point. So, but the other side went in a little bit easier, this side's a little bit tighter. What I wound up doing was I took a pry bar and I stuck it in the top there, and I was able to compress it enough and push it over and get it into that pocket. So now what we're going to do is we're going to catch the top with one of the nuts, and then I'm going to put the upper control arm in. Now, had I been doing this at my shop, what I would have done was I would have actually taken the entire spindle and knuckle off, and this way I could have taken the axle out and I could have gotten more travel out of the control arm to get this in place, but I didn't have that option here. So this is why we're doing what we're doing. So now I'm going to put the lower bolt in, and this way I can swing this up in place and catch the upper nuts. All right, so now we're pushing the bolt through. We lined up that clevis. So now, I don't know if you can see that, the bolt coming through there at the bottom. So now that's all hung in place. So now I'm going to stick the floor jack underneath here, and then this way I can move this thing up and into place. Now, this is not the prettiest video in the world, but you get the idea. Now also, because of the airbag that's part of the strut, you may have to twist the bag slightly to catch the 3 nuts on top. Ugh. If you look closely, you can see the one stud is starting to line up there. See that? But the other ones are off slightly. See how they're actually rotated inward? So what I have to do is I have to go underneath and I have to grab the collar or grab the airbag, and then Aunt Meg or Nana Meg is going to put a little bit of pressure on with the floor jack to put pressure upward, and then I'm going to slightly twist the airbag and it'll get it to line up. And there you have it. Basically, I just reached underneath, I twisted the bag just slightly, just ever so slightly. You can see it deformed it just slightly, but that's okay because once it airs up, it'll actually straighten itself out. So now, with that all in place, I'm going to catch at least one nut. This way it keeps it from dropping out. And this way, now I can take the floor jack out of there because now I don't really need it anymore. So there's a new upper control arm installed. Pretty simple, straightforward. You know, you put the 2 bolts in, catch the nuts on the other side and tighten it up. It's at ride height. Remember, I've explained that to you before. You need to keep everything at ride height. So it's reverse procedure to install. It's really not a big deal at this point. These are not that difficult to do, which kind of surprised me because I really thought it was going to be a problem. But it's really not bad at all. All right, let me keep going. I should have this thing all together shortly. That's all assembled now. And I mean, like I said, it was very straightforward. Just bolt everything in place. Pretty much reverse procedure to install. I got the top piece on. I got the line in, line's tight, this is tight. I got to put these shields in place, these covers in place. I got to hook the brake booster vacuum back up. The only reason I moved that out of the way is because my arms are really fat. So try to get them down in there to catch that nut for the upper control arm. I needed a little more clearance. So that helped me out there. Plus Nana Meg actually helped me a lot with that too. And then I got to put the strut tower brace in. Once I get that in, then we are ready to try this thing out and see what happens. And there it is. I got everything hooked up, let it off the jacks, started it up, leveled itself out, the compressor shut off. So I'd say we're good because the compressor was running non-stop before. So, I mean, it really wasn't a terrible job. Had I had a shop and a lift to work with, it would have been a lot easier. But that wasn't bad, you know, for doing it on the ground. Yeah, definitely not a horrific job whatsoever. So now the car really just needs to get cleaned up, and that's about it. Yeah, get it all cleaned up, and you can turn around and sell it, drive it, whatever you want to do with it. I'd say sell it, to be totally honest with you. Anyway, that's it. All right, guys, if you're getting anything out of my videos, hit that like button. If you could, please subscribe. I hope you got something out of it. Have a great day. Keep wrenching.